So today I'm going to talk about how to deactivate vibrations. And I will begin this conversation by saying that really the most powerful thing to do when you're working with frequency and shifting your reality is to activate a vibration such as freedom, love, focusing your awareness on your heart chakra. So just really quickly, that's very simple. And there's kind of a trick, not a trick, but something that's useful and something that will be valuable to the way you live your everyday life, which is that your heart chakra is a perceptual center. And so when you literally drop your consciousness down into the heart, there's automatically like this opening and sweet feeling. And so if you put your awareness in the heart, and if you work on putting more awareness in the heart, whether it's like when you walk, when you drive, you play a soft, maybe solfeggio tone, and you just put awareness on your heart, what will happen is the gravity that keeps your consciousness up in your head will gradually start to relax into your heart, which is your creative center. And so that's number one. You want to begin to put awareness in your heart and practice, like when you go to the grocery store. Walk around feeling yourself here instead of up here. And interact with people from here, from love. You don't have to try to be loving. You just have to tune into a dimension of yourself that already is loving. So that's number one. And I talk about activating frequencies more in other videos, but this is how to deactivate vibrations, and I'll explain kind of the main things that keep unwanted vibrations active. So there are two main things that keep a vibration active, and those things are the story you tell about your life and the reactions that you have to life. And I guess there's a third one, the choices that you make. So let's go through all of those. So the stories that you tell. In the last few years, there's been a lot of change for a lot of people. A lot of people I know have gotten divorced, have had a healing crisis, have lost a home, have lost friends, etc., etc. There's been a lot of loss and a lot of change because we're going through a paradigm shift where old vibrations are being purged at an abnormally fast rate, or at an unprecedented fast rate, so that we can align with evolution and no longer carry those heavier vibrations forward into our new life. So the point of that is that, when you lose something, or when something traumatic happens, or, when all these kind of demons are being brought to the surface, it's hard, right? It can make you feel unsafe. So it's hard not to have a story and say, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. And I acknowledge that sometimes something has such a big impact and something can be traumatic, so that you need to vent, you need to tell a story about it. You need to acknowledge, yes, that person lied to me. Yes, that person deceived me. Yes, that person did this or that, right? That's part of the healing process. You don't want to keep that inside of you, and you have to acknowledge, right? You have to learn how to call a spade a spade. I talk about discernment a lot. Like a person may have lied to you, and that's a fact, but what's not a fact is that they're a scumbag, or they're this, or they're that, or right? So you can acknowledge the truth, right? This happened. You can acknowledge what is, and then you can refrain from making that person wrong. And like I said, you may need a period where you have to do this, especially people who have who their whole lives deception and abuse has been such a normal part of their constitution. Like, it's so normal, it's all they know. It's important that people begin to say out loud, Yes, acknowledge things that happen. Acknowledge. Yes, I was abused. Yes, I was beaten. Yes, I was raped, right? Yes, that's real. And so that's like step one of the healing process, acknowledgement and acceptance. But let's say you've been deceived, right? And you've processed, you've accepted, right? As soon as you've accepted something, if you continue to make it wrong, if you continue to make the person wrong, if you continue to tell stories about them to your friends, to your family, to justify why you got away from them, you don't need to justify a choice that you make. You don't need to justify why you move away from something. You don't need the propeller of change to be your hatred or your pushing against somebody else or making something else wrong. So no matter what somebody has done to you, you don't need to explain to everyone how bad they are, and that's why you got away from them. If you are still needing to explain a decision you make, you don't trust yourself. So I would say trust yourself and acknowledge like you have the ability to see things for what they are and to make a clear decision like, I will not interact with that anymore. That's not for me. I have no obligation to interact with that. I don't choose that anymore. I don't choose that anymore. So telling stories keep the vibration active. When a subject that was touchy for you comes up in conversation, listen to yourself and how you talk about it. You may not be thinking about it much anymore, but if when you speak about it, there's still some story, some charged story, there's something inside you that feels powerless, that feels the need to make that thing or person wrong, right? So if somebody betrays you and you need to tell everyone like, oh, that person is this, the scumbag and a liar and a blah, blah, blah. There's no need for that. You can just acknowledge like, okay, that person was engaging in behavior that I don't want that in my life, and so I'm going to go another way, turn the other cheek. And if people ask you about it, you can simply say, yeah, we didn't have the same values and we were just not on the same page. And I'm going my own way. Simple and clear. If you are unable to drop a story, right, look at the emotional addiction, right? There's emotional addictions to righteousness. There's emotional addictions to being the hero, being the good guy. If you still need to label or frame something as evil or wrong or bad, you're remaining in a duality where you're the good guy and they're the bad guy. When the reality is that even if they may have hurt you, they just are who they are, and they helped awaken within you something that you desperately needed to remember. Because all of life, there's only one being here with many perspectives, and we are all walking each other home and awakening each other. And sometimes the people who have deceived us the most or have triggered us the most are our greatest allies. So drop your stories about what has happened in your life, whether it's an event, a person, like that charge, that importance that you put on it tethers yourself to the situation. A strong emotional charge is like you handcuffing yourself to the situation, because it's only that version of you that still has those reactions that is in that situation. Okay? And it goes the same for karma. We're living in this quantum reality now where instead of having like these cycles of learning and what we put out comes back to us, it's more instantaneous now, where let's say you're still dealing with a tough situation and it triggers you. If you just feel the trigger and you let like that fire of alchemy burn it up and just let it move, and then in the next moment you decide like, I'm not going to be this person anymore, and I'm not going to let that energy move through me. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to let that energy speak through me. In that moment, you have become you have aligned with the true self, and the old self that has the symptoms, the karma, the beliefs, the identities, you've left that version behind in an instant. So deactivating a vibration is simply, if you're still in a situation, if you are still being emotionally triggered, feel the trigger, let it rise and fall like weather. And that takes some practice. If you haven't practiced feeling your feelings, if you haven't practiced opening the body enough to be able to let that energy move, that's some work to do. Open your body, breathe into it, soften your body, have an intention that you're going to be aware of everything going on within you so that it can be released. And then in the next moment, just remember, like, no, I'm not going to play this game anymore. Believe me, somebody can push every button that you have. And if you are done being that old, blameful, reactive, angry, sad, resentful, tyrannical person, like, you won't give it any energy. You'll just be like, okay, like, it's time to move on. So that's one way that you keep vibrations active. You continue to make something wrong, right? A person, an event in your life, a sickness that happened. Oh, it was so unfair. Oh, it was so unfair. I could do that, right? I had 18 hours of surgery, and I had a lot of body parts removed that honestly I wish I didn't. But what it caused within me was like this great awakening that really served me. And now I'm in the realization that I can regrow my body parts. I've mentioned before that 2 women that my friend knows have regrown their thyroid and lymph nodes from practicing embodying the energy of wholeness. It's a whole different thing. But so do I want to activate that vibration of, it's valid to feel like, hurt, and it's valid. All of your emotions are valid, but at some point you have to realize that continuing to feel sorry for yourself or continuing any story that tethers you to low energy, emotions, anything less than peace is just tethering you to a past version of yourself that clearly you weren't ready to give up yet. If you're still giving it energy, if you're still observing it, giving it your attention. So the second way that we keep vibrations active is by the choices that we make. So let's say that, and the first and the second were kind of like in the same thing. It's the story you tell and the emotions that you have. Right? The emotion keeps you tethered, so you have to learn how to feel and release that chain. The emotion is the bridge to your past self. So if you can get sick of that, get sick of those emotions, feel them, let them go, and don't give energy to any story that perpetuates those bridges, those emotions, those will fizzle out for lack of attention, lack of importance, lack of power. And so the other way that we keep vibrations active is that we choose things that we know. We deceive ourselves, right? So let's say you have a group of friends that, they gossip and drink, and you have no interest in drinking. And I'm not saying drinking is bad, but you have no interest in partaking in any of that, yet you keep going to meet with them, and you kind of just observe them doing what they do, but it doesn't feel natural to you anymore. Why are you doing that? If you are in any situation, whether it's a business partnership, right? Maybe you're a business partner, they're doing something shady with money, or that they don't bring in any business, yet they have an agreement to get 50% of your profits. Like, why are you doing that? You don't believe you deserve better than that? Why are you choosing things that don't align with self-respect and with authenticity? Why are you, why are you surrounding yourself with people who you feel like a dark energy around them? It could be that you are attracted to power. They could be powerful, they could be wealthy, they could be, and I'm not saying that all wealthy people are like after a certain dark power. Absolutely not. Okay. But look at, like, why do you still choose things if life is a buffet and there's all these options? And if you're still choosing to put food in your mouth that makes you gag, why are you doing it? It could be that you have an attraction to power. You have a fear that if you don't continue to do things you don't want to do, that you'll lose everything, that you'll have to be alone for a while, that you'll have to make choices. So you might stop judging people, you might stop telling stories, but if you get invited to places that you really don't want to go to and you say yes, you're keeping a vibration active, because instead of staying in alignment with yourself, you're aligning with a conditioned energy, probably an energy that's familiar to your childhood, where whether it's like a group of people that piss you off, maybe you're addicted to being pissed off. Maybe you're addicted to being offended. Maybe you're addicted to playing a role, being the saint of the group, being the tyrant, being the queen, being the martyr, being the prophet, right? You are more, you love the role that you play in that situation that doesn't feel good to you more than you love the love of your source, which will attract to you energies, beings, situations that resonate with your soul. You're still making choices in fear. So that's the other big one. You make choices in fear that don't align with your values, that don't align with you, with your authenticity. So you keep these familiar energies in your aura. We are entangled, and it's very real that who we hang out with, what we choose becomes part of our energy. And there's also this reality that the aspects of people and the expectations that we have of people and our own projections is what we attract out of people. That's true too. But if you've done a lot of that internal work and you're feeling the energy itself, there's energy, right? There's an energy that you can feel. That's one layer of reality. So let's say it's like when you get in a cab and it doesn't feel right, you get out. Okay, that's one layer of reality. The next layer is your reaction to it. Like if you have a judgment, a reaction, like that is where you have work to do. That is where you want to look at maybe an emotional addiction, an impression in your mind that you haven't healed or acknowledged. But your ability to sense reality, a healthy awareness of your reality, is completely right. It's part of our intelligence. So ask yourself, am I still choosing things that feel off to me, that don't feel right to me? Am I dragging myself through a situation that has felt bad for a really long time? What are my fears about it? Why won't I choose something better for myself? Live with that question, and your higher self will start to answer that question for you. And once you break free of the identity role addictions, right? Like I said, you might be addicted to being the saint of that group. Everybody is evil, but I'm the saint. Once you break free of the addiction to duality and to being better than someone or even worse than someone, or once you get sick of that emotional addiction that you get, maybe a trickier one is confusion. Maybe like you're very indecisive and confused from your childhood, and you attract people who make you feel that way. People who, like, you can feel that their intentions aren't good, but their face is like saying something else. This mismatch, right? Why are you attracting people who are deceptive? It's because you're deceiving yourself. because you know something and you're not acknowledging that knowing. And so you attract people who amplify what's inside of you. As within, so without. So that's how you deactivate vibrations. You stop choosing things that aren't in alignment with you. You stop telling stories that bring you into separation. Any story that is unkind or resistant or judgmental is the separate self's version of reality. And the third way is that you deactivate, you become sick of your reactions and you learn how to feel them and let them go. So that's it for today.